Hello, everybody. Let's start this right. Hello, I'm Twyla Mcdermott, and I'm so happy to be here to share with you an incredible journey working with a group of students in Newton. 3 years ago, I opened a wine bar in Newton. I was told it was a crazy idea. My family thought I'd lost my mind. Those in the wine business said, "Don't do it." And it was difficult enough going through the government regulation just to establish a business that sold alcohol. I opened a wine bar anyway, and I opened it in Newton. A surprising thing happened. I would have never expected that I wound up creating community. This is the Catawba County Courthouse. How many of you have seen it? How many of you have been to Newton? I can't see a thing, so maybe you need to clap. But the courthouse is beautiful. It's a monument. It's the centerpiece of downtown Newton. I grew up in Newton in the 60s and 70s when Newton was alive and vibrant. I spent my Saturdays at the library, which was just a block away from the courthouse, and I spent my money at this store. I spent my allowance at Eagle, 5 and dime. I bought candy, and of all things, at Easter time, I bought chicks and ducks. I went to Newton Conover High School. We called Newton Rootin' Tootin' Newton. Today, Newton is anything but rooting and tootin', with the exception of last week, which was our soldiers' reunion. So once a year, for a week, Newton is rootin' and tootin'. But today, the stately courthouse, that monument that we're all so proud of, is lined with vacant and decaying buildings. Even the library, where I spent so many of my Saturdays, moved away from the central business district to the edge of town, and it was built with eyes that were windowless, turning its face on the downtown. I opened a wine bar in Newton, and an engaged citizenry stepped up. They stepped up, they talked, they became friends, and started to work towards being small, smart, and connected, all for civic good. This is the story. These are some of my wonderful customers. They wear white collars, they wear blue collars, they wear clergy collars, they wear no collars at all. They're retirees, attorneys, teachers, young and old. And what happened over a glass of wine or a craft beer is that they began to talk. That happens, right, when you're drinking? You talk. And they talked about the state of their city because it was staring them in the face. The wine bar is in Newton, they come to Newton, they talk about it. Largely, they were disgruntled with the state of their historic downtown. Within the walls of the wine bar, an amazing thing happened, an uncommon thing happened. The conversations led to the combination of these 5 elements. Citizens as volunteers, working with the government, working with schools, working with business sponsors, using technology to improve their city. People like Mr. Wilson and Mr. Dixon from Discovery High School came into that bar. Now, they like beer. So while serving them beer, we began to have a conversation about Newton. Both of them are from Newton and are now teachers. They could have moved anywhere. They're brilliant. We talked about a way to engage students to help improve the quality of life. Another thing happened. Last year was an election year for the local government in Newton. Mr. Dixon and Mr. Lefevers both made a decision while in that wine bar to run for city council. A third candidate was greatly influenced by conversations that were going on and also ran for city council. And while I was talking with the teachers, we came up with a plan, an idea to get the youth involved. What a better way to engage students than with a problem. My colleague Michael and I were invited into the classroom to talk to the students about their community. The first question I asked them was, what do you love about your community? And I heard things like, well, I like it because it's close to Charlotte. And I said, no. What do you love about your community? Love, not like, not what's nice about it. What do you love? So we heard lots of nice things about what they love. It's small town feel, that there really were amenities, but they were hidden. So we challenged them, and through the course of the discussion, they came up with a project. And that project was really a tangent off of this comment. One of the students, as we were having the love discussion, said, well, outside Newton, Newton doesn't exist. Which was quickly followed by another student who had this to say: inside Newton, Newton doesn't exist. Now that's pretty sombering, right? Inside Newton, Newton doesn't exist. Meaning people don't take advantage of the treasure that it is. So that group of students defined a project and took to the streets. Their project was to document the current state of Newton. They configured an application using technology donated by Esri, a GIS software company, a little app that ran on a smartphone, and used it to collect land use and quality data on every business and every structure in downtown Newton. Let me back up just a minute and tell you, when I first charted this project out, I have an IT background, so I had to do, project plan for the teachers. And I said, this is going to take us 6 weeks. We're going to come into the classroom for once a week for 6 weeks, and then we'll be done. It took us 9 months from start to finish. It became so involved, and the students were so passionate about it. They collected this data, and while they're out on the streets, right, if you can imagine, it's Newton, it's a small town. They're looking at their phones, they're looking at buildings, they're going back on their phone. People began to chatter. Merchants came out onto the sidewalk. People I haven't seen in years, people I hadn't seen in 3 years since I opened that wine bar, came out, stepped outside. What are you doing? Not all of them were happy either. But it was good. It was good for the students to have these conversations with the merchants, to get a feel for the culture and the perspectives. The local newspaper found out what was going on and invited the students to compose and to pose the only juried question to the full slate of candidates in the 2015 Newton City Council and mayoral election. So they came up with the question, and they also got to ask it. They got to ask each of those candidates, what do you intend to do specifically to improve the quality of the downtown? It wasn't always like it is now. What a tremendous experience for them. At the conclusion of their project, they assembled all their data into a technology product called a story map. So the story map allowed them to integrate video, audio, internet links, research, and interactive maps all into one application. This application, the story map, is live today. If you do a Google search on Discovery High School story map for Civic Good, you can get to it and page through it. This is how their story map started out.
Okay, so last question. What would be one word that you would use to describe Newton?
Ooh, good one. Oh God.
So, but perhaps it's a word with an adjective.
One word?
Hometown.
Friendly.
I like being in Newton just like I said, I like the small town feel. I think Newton has a lot of potential.
It's beautiful.
And I think the word I would use is unity.
Small town.
Quaint.
But Newton is a good mixture of rural culture and downtown culture. Balanced. It's a good balance.
Charming. And I have used that word many times. It's a very charming city.
Historic hometown, yeah.
Yeah, hometown. It feels like home to us.
Just hopeful. I think everybody here is kind of thought maybe we've been through the worst. You know, it used to be a mill town and all the jobs left, and now we've kind of stagnated out. I think we're really hopeful that these new changes will bring about some positive things, and I think we're just very hopeful of the future.
Great potential. All right.
Pretty good for high school students, don't you think? They also ventured off without even talking to their mentor of volunteers, Michael and I, and did their own primary research. They asked their peers. After high school, after you graduate from college, how likely are you to live in Newton? 70% said, not likely. No. In order for a town to attract youth, to be a youth magnet, there has to be amenities. There needs to be restaurant, shopping, coffee shop, outdoor activities, parks. So one of the recommendations that these students put together was to create a youth magnet for Newton. They had other recommendations too, no more vacancies, for example, and all of them are in this story map. At the conclusion of their project, just a few months ago, they were invited to City Hall to present their work. They stood in front of the very city council members that were elected during that 2015 election, and then some of the legacy guard. The comments and accolades they received from that group of elected officials were over the top. One said, "We don't need consultants, we just need our young people helping us." They were in awe. We presented the outcomes during that session. Outcomes that we believe influenced the adoption by City Council of the Newton Streetscape Plan. We also believe we affected the outcome of the election by taking part in that candidates forum. This project also set a pathway for the mayor's teen leadership program. That's a program that had been going on for a number of years that involved Newton Conover High School students and Discovery High School students. They would take field trips to businesses and various government agencies over the course of 6 weeks, and then come up with a recommendation or a project that needed to happen to improve the community. Those words always stayed on paper. But now, because of the For Civic Good program, those projects have a fulfillment path through the For Civic Good program. These are the 5 elements that were a success, that are a success to the For Civic Good movement. And in Newton, it included the City of Newton, the government, the planner, the downtown coordinator, the city manager. It included Discovery School, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Dixon, Carolina Vines Wine Bar, and Esri, the technology company. And today, hello, we are Newton. We are small, smart, and connected, and things are looking bright. There's been positive change in Newton. We're also sustainable. That's coming. School starts next week. We'll be stepping into the classroom to solve another problem, a problem that came out of the mayor's teen leadership program. There were 3 groups. 2 of them said they wanted to work on renewable energy and environmental problems. We're going to be working with the students to solve Newton's energy puzzle. How can, as an electricity, a member of an electricity, an electric co-op that has to pay a certain threshold to the big energy company every year, no matter how much you consume, how can our businesses, our residents, and our public agencies have renewable energy options? That's what we're doing next. We're starting next week. So in conclusion, the For Civic Good concept works. Whether you live in a large city, a neighborhood in a large city, or a small city, what are you going to do? What are you going to do for your community and the problems that you know it has, that your children know it has? Talk to me. Let's figure out how we can make civic good common for everybody. And last, cheers. Cheers to these communities in the Catawba Valley and to the good fortune of the citizens that live there. Thank you all.